Silence has a way of revealing what noise is designed to hide. Most people believe they fail because they lack opportunity, resources, or allies. That belief is not accidental, it is comforting. It shifts responsibility outward. It allows weakness to feel moral, but the truth is colder and far less flattering. Most people fail because they are psychologically dependent on permission they will never receive. Support is not a prerequisite for success. It is a sedative. It dulls urgency. It slows adaptation. It creates expectations. And expectations, when unmet, become excuses. Those who require support to move forward are not prepared to survive environments where power is scarce and sympathy is performative. Look closely at human behavior and a pattern emerges. People offer encouragement when they sense no threat. The moment your intent becomes real, their tone changes. Doubt replaces praise. Concern disguises resistance. Advice becomes restraint. This is not cruelty. It is self-preservation. Your rise disrupts their internal hierarchy. If you succeed without them, their value diminishes. So they withhold support not out of hatred but out of instinct. Power is not given to those who ask. It is taken by those who no longer need to ask. Those who succeed with zero support learn this early. They stop explaining. They stop seeking validation. They stop waiting for consensus. They understand that visibility attracts interference, and interference drains momentum. So they move quietly. They allow others to underestimate them. Underestimation is one of the few advantages freely given in a competitive world. People like to believe the world rewards talent. It does not. It rewards leverage. Talent without leverage becomes labor for someone else's vision. Leverage without approval is dangerous, and danger is precisely what makes it effective. When you move without endorsement, you operate outside expectation. When you operate outside expectation, you become difficult to control. This is why institutions train obedience before competence. Obedience is predictable. Competence without loyalty is destabilizing. The individual who advances alone cannot be easily managed. They have already proven they do not require permission, reassurance, or applause. Such individuals are tolerated only when they are useful and eliminated when they become autonomous. Human weakness often disguises itself as virtue. Patience becomes procrastination. Humility becomes invisibility. Loyalty becomes self-betrayal. These traits are praised because they maintain order, not because they produce results. The individual who discards them selectively is labeled dangerous. That label is accurate. Dangerous people do not need crowds. They need clarity. Without support, you are forced to develop internal discipline. External pressure is replaced by self-surveillance. This is more demanding. There are no deadlines imposed, no consequences administered by others. Failure becomes intimate. You feel it immediately. This creates a feedback loop most cannot tolerate. They prefer external structure because it shields them from self-judgment. Those who survive this phase become difficult to manipulate. Guilt loses its grip. Praise loses its influence. Fear becomes data rather than deterrent. When you have already operated alone, threats of abandonment lose power. You have been abandoned before and continued regardless. This is why true autonomy is unsettling to observe. It exposes the fragility of socially constructed confidence. It reminds others that their security is conditional, and people resent reminders of their dependence. Machiavelli understood that power is maintained not through force alone, but through perception. The unsupported individual controls perception by refusing to perform vulnerability on demand. They do not advertise struggle, nor do they dramatize success. They remain unreadable. Unreadability disrupts manipulation. If others cannot predict your reactions, they cannot steer your behavior. To succeed without support, you must accept that resentment is inevitable. Growth creates distance. Distance creates misunderstanding. Misunderstanding invites projection. People will assign motives to you that justify their discomfort. Let them. Correcting narratives is a waste of energy. Results speak when language fails. Most people want to be liked more than they want to be effective. This is why they remain dependent. Approval feels like safety, but safety that relies on others' moods is unstable. The unsupported individual builds systems instead of relationships. Not because relationships lack value, but because systems do not withdraw affection when threatened. Control is not domination. It is insulation. It is reducing points of failure. Every dependency is a vulnerability. Every favor owed is leverage granted. When you succeed alone, you owe no one an explanation. This is freedom most people cannot handle because it removes the excuse of being misunderstood. At a certain level, isolation becomes strategic. You choose distance not out of bitterness, but efficiency. Fewer voices, fewer compromises, fewer attachments, fewer negotiations. This sharpens decision-making. It also hardens you. That hardening is not cruelty. It is adaptation. The world rewards those who can endure discomfort longer than others can endure clarity. In the end, success without support is not about pride. It is about realism. People will join you once you are useful. They will praise you once your position is secure. They will claim proximity once your outcome is irreversible. This is not hypocrisy. It is hierarchy asserting itself after the fact. Remember this when applause arrives late. It was never missing. It was waiting for proof. The most dangerous realization is not that you were alone. It is that you always were and still moved forward. hard. There is a moment that arrives quietly, after prolonged isolation, when you realize something unsettling. The absence of support no longer feels like a disadvantage. It feels like insulation. Noise fades, expectations dissolve, and in that silence, your thinking sharpens in ways that collective environments never allowed. Most people never reach this stage because they mistake discomfort for danger. They return to familiar dependencies the moment solitude exposes their inconsistencies. But if you remain, if you endure long enough, you begin to see how deeply social structures rely on psychological compliance rather than competence. Support systems are not neutral. They shape behavior. They reward predictability and punish deviation. When you succeed without them, you operate outside the behavioral economy that governs most lives. You no longer respond to incentives designed for the dependent. This makes you difficult to integrate and even harder to restrain. Observe how power reacts to independence. It does not confront it directly. It tests it. It offers belated assistance, conditional alliances, recognition with strings attached. These are not gifts. They are probes. The question being asked is simple. Can you still be influenced? This is where many fail. After prolonged isolation, the desire for connection resurfaces, not as weakness but as fatigue. Humans are not designed for permanent separation. Power understands this and waits patiently. It re-enters your life disguised as opportunity, a partnership, a platform, a seat at the table, all framed as reward for resilience. But resilience without discernment becomes surrender. Those who truly succeed with zero support learn to recognize delayed generosity. They understand that help offered after momentum is established is not assistance, it is acquisition. When others arrive only after risk has passed, they are not allies. They are beneficiaries seeking proximity to outcome, not contribution to process. This is why Machiavellian realism emphasizes timing over intention. What matters is not what is offered, but when it is offered. Early resistance reveals threat perception. Late support reveals opportunism. Both are informative. By now, your psychology has shifted. You no longer crave acknowledgement because you have already validated yourself through endurance. You no longer explain decisions because explanation invites debate, and debate invites dilution. Your language becomes sparse. Your movements precise. You choose environments not for comfort but for leverage. People misinterpret this as coldness. In reality, it is selectivity. When you have built yourself without scaffolding, you recognize how fragile most structures are. You see how quickly loyalty collapses under pressure, how principles bend under inconvenience, how morality is negotiated when incentives change. This does not make you cynical. It makes you accurate. Accuracy is isolating. At this stage, manipulation becomes visible. You notice how narratives are used to control behavior, how guilt is deployed to enforce compliance, how praise is weaponized to extract effort. These tactics lose effectiveness once you have operated beyond their reach. You are no longer governed by approval or fear of exclusion. This creates an asymmetry. Others need the group. You do not. That difference alters every interaction. Conversations become negotiations even when they pretend not to be. People sense the imbalance and attempt to correct it. They seek to bind you through obligation, shared identity, or moral framing. They speak of community, alignment, shared vision. Listen carefully. These are not invitations. They are containment strategies. To succeed without support, and then to continue succeeding, you must resist the urge to normalize yourself. Normalization is regression disguised as belonging. The world will tolerate your independence only if it can contextualize it, soften it, make it legible. Once legible, it becomes manageable. Remain illegible. This does not mean becoming chaotic or antagonistic. It means preserving optionality. You do not announce long-term intentions. You do not anchor your identity to roles others can revoke. You do not invest emotionally where leverage is asymmetrical. You observe, you calculate, you move. Loneliness returns occasionally, but now it is different. It no longer feels like abandonment. It feels like distance between you and those who cannot follow. That distance is not a flaw. It is evidence of divergence. Most people live horizontally, moving alongside others, measuring progress comparatively. You have learned to move vertically, detached from immediate reference. This disorients those who rely on mirrors for motivation. They will attempt to pull you back into shared pacing. Decline politely. Shared pacing is how momentum dies. The unsupported individual understands a final truth that others resist. Security is not found in numbers but in self-sufficiency. Groups fracture. Systems fail. Alliances shift. The only constant is your capacity to adapt without consensus. In the end, success without support strips away comforting myths. It reveals that independence is not heroic. It is simply rare. Rare because it demands the one thing most people avoid above all else: full accountability. No witnesses, no excuses, no one to credit or blame, just outcome. And once you understand that, you realize something even colder. Support was never missing. It was irrelevant. By the time you reach this stage, something irreversible has occurred. You no longer see people the way you once did, not as allies or enemies, not as supporters or obstacles, but as predictable systems responding to pressure, incentive, and fear. Emotional language no longer confuses you. Moral outrage no longer distracts you. You hear what is being asked beneath what is being said. And what is almost always being asked is this: can you be controlled? Those who succeed without support eventually understand that the greatest threat is no longer external opposition. It is reintegration. The slow pull back into dependency disguised as stability, comfort framed as maturity, compromise sold as wisdom. This is where many undo themselves. They mistake endurance for completion. They believe the hardest part is over. They allow their edges to soften. They begin explaining again, seeking alignment, allowing their behavior to be interpreted, categorized, and adjusted by others. Power does not fear resistance. It fears independence that refuses definition. The world is structured to absorb outliers. If it cannot crush them, it domesticates them. It rewards just enough compliance to make rebellion inefficient. It offers platforms that require restraint, communities that demand conformity, and recognition that subtly alters behavior. None of this feels like force. That is why it works. But you have already lived without permission. You have already moved forward unseen. You know the difference between support that builds and support that binds. So you choose carefully. You engage selectively. You accept proximity without surrender. You allow access without exposure. You understand that connection is not weakness, but unconscious attachment is. At this level, manipulation becomes mutual only if you allow it. Otherwise, it remains asymmetrical. You listen more than you speak. You reveal less than you know. You let others assume familiarity while you retain distance. This is not deception. It is insulation. Most people live inside narratives they did not write. They adopt beliefs because they are repeated, values because they are rewarded, identities because they are safe. You no longer need safety. You need accuracy. And accuracy often requires standing alone longer than is socially acceptable. That is the real cost of succeeding without support. You become difficult to lie to, not because you are suspicious, but because you recognize patterns faster than explanations can keep up. You see, when empathy is used as leverage, when urgency is manufactured, when fear is framed as responsibility, you are no longer impressed by intensity. You measure consistency. This is why your presence unsettles some people. You do not react the way they expect. You do not rush to reassure or defend. You do not seek consensus before acting. Silence becomes your default response, not because you lack answers, but because answers invite negotiation. And negotiation is only useful when both sides have leverage. In the end, the lesson is not about isolation. It is about sovereignty. To succeed with zero support is to discover that most limitations are social agreements enforced through psychology, not reality. Once you step outside those agreements, you cannot return unchanged. You either shrink yourself to fit again, or you accept permanent distance. Most will never do this, not because they cannot, but because they do not want to see what it reveals about their own dependence. If you are still listening, it is not because this is comfortable. It is because something here feels uncomfortably accurate. That awareness is rare, and rarity attracts attention, both yours and others. So understand this clearly. Not everyone should hear these ideas. Not everyone is ready to operate without reassurance, approval, or protection. Many prefer guidance that soothes rather than sharpens. If you continue exposing yourself to perspectives like this, your thinking will change. Your tolerance for illusion will erode. Your relationships may shift. Your decisions will become colder but clearer. That is not a warning. It is a consequence. Choose accordingly. And if you decide to remain in spaces where truth is not diluted to preserve comfort, where observation matters more than affirmation, then you already know what to do. You don't follow voices that make you feel good. You stay close to the ones that make you see.